Do you know the difference between a journal and a diary? Do you know how to make a journal? Do you know how to keep a journal? Do you think you need one? Do you think you should have one? We're going to talk about that today. I'm going to show you how to make a journal and tell you why you should have one. Welcome to An Apple a Day. Please be aware that the comments, views, opinions shared on this podcast are not meant to diagnose a medical problem and/or legal problem. If you do have a medical problem or legal problem, kindly contact a professional.
Welcome to An Apple a Day, a podcast, a resource, a community. Share your experiences and learn from others as we overcome barriers and learn to live a happy, healthy life with a disability. Welcome to the community. Here's your host, Jimmy Apple.
Welcome to another episode of An Apple a Day. I'm your host, Jimmy Apple. Before we start, let me remind you, An Apple a Day is brought to you by www.famousapple.com. Famousapple.com is the home site for this podcast. You get a minute, go over there, check it out. And if you'd like to reach me, you can write me at jimmy@famousapple.com. That's JIMMY@famousapple.com. Or you can reach me at admin@famousapple.com. That's ADMIN@famousapple.com. So how you doing today, my friends? How was your weekend? You have a good weekend? Excellent. I know the weather was kind of crappy here, but you know what? We're on this side of the grass looking down, so it was a good weekend. Hey, today I want to talk to you about journals. Did you ever go to the doctor and before you went to the doctor, before you had that appointment, you knew in your head you had all these questions that you wanted to ask. Then you get to the doctor and all of a sudden you forget them. For some reason, they just fly out of your head. And you leave the doctor and you haven't asked the questions that you wanted to ask and you remember them on your way home. Or you're at the doctor and the doctor tells you certain things that for some reason you just don't remember them. Maybe they tell you about a new prescription that you're going to take and there's a certain way you have to take them, like twice in the morning, 3 times in the afternoon, once in the evening. And if you feel this way, stop it. And if you don't feel that way, increase it. And it's all mind-boggling. And you just forget it. It's like it just disappears out of your head. Well, we're gonna try and take care of that today. We're gonna try and rectify that problem because I used to have that problem and it was terrible. I'd be making phone calls back to the doctor more than I called my wife. So we're going to show you a way that you can rectify that problem. Maybe not 100%, but at least 90% of that problem you can take care of just by keeping a journal. So we're going to get into that today. All right, let's start with what a journal isn't. A journal isn't a 12-year-old girl's diary. You're not writing in there, ooh, Michael looked at me, or Sally is my best friend. And that's a 12-year-old's diary. You're not... This isn't a diary. This is a journal. Many business people keep journals, and your health is more important than a business. And you have to use any tool available to take care of your health. All right, let's start with the pros. What are the pros of keeping a journal? You're keeping a record of your doctor's appointments. You're keeping a record of your medication. You're keeping a record of how you're feeling. You're keeping a record of the environment around you on a daily basis. You're keeping a record of prescriptions. You're keeping a record of new prescriptions. You're keeping track of what doctors' instructions have changed. You're keeping track of vital signs. You're keeping track of your eating habits and your sleeping habits. You're keeping track of your physical well-being. That's what your journal is doing. Now, what are the negative aspects of it? You have to write. That's the only negative I can think of. All right, so how do we set up a journal? You can do it any way, really, that you want. I use one of 3 ways. I started out with a notebook, which I found a little bit cumbersome because I want to add pages to it. So I went from the notebook to a binder, which was good. Actually, I still use a binder. With the binder, I print out pages off my computer. And I also keep record on my computer. I keep files on my computer. But I use my binder primarily. And what I do is I set up a sheet. And on the sheet, I have naturally my name and the date, the space for the date. And being that I'm a diabetic, I have a space 4 spaces across the page for me to put in my blood sugar and my insulin that I bolus. I also have room for my blood pressure in the morning, the afternoon, and the evening. And then I take notes during the day, like I have a doctor's appointment. What time is my doctor's appointment? And a lot of times I have more than one doctor's appointment in the daytime. And I keep track of all of those, and I keep notes from my doctors. And sometimes my journal sheet may end up to be 3 or 4 pages just because of multiple doctor's appointments. Sometimes I might have any doctor's appointment only be half a page. But I also write on the page what the weather is out that morning, how I slept, what I had for breakfast, what I ate for lunch, what I ate for dinner, the snacks that I had during the day. I also write how I feel when I woke up. If I felt great when I woke up, I write that I felt great. If I feel pain, I write that I have pain and where I had the pain. See, what you have to understand is by writing the weather outside is very important. There is a correlation between weather and pain. Environment and pain go together hand in hand. It's the same thing. I keep track if I'm going to have company that day or if I have to go somewhere other than a doctor, like if I'm going to the store with my wife or something. I keep track of all of that because your environment, again, goes hand in hand with your physical well-being. So it's important to keep track of all these changes in your life. And those changes, you let your doctor know about. It's very important. I also keep a separate sheet in between doctor's appointments where I can write down questions that I want to bring to the doctor's appointment with me. And if a question comes up today, I'll write it on that separate sheet. And if something comes up 2 days from now, I'll write it on that separate sheet. When I go to the doctor, I bring that sheet with me and I have all the questions that came up during that period in between appointments. And it's right there in front of me. And I keep one for each doctor. Now, another thing I do is I break up my binder into months. I get 12 tabs, and I break it up into the 12 months. This way, at the end of the year, you can just rubber band those sheets, put them into a box or a drawer or what have you, and you have them all there. I keep records of mine for a year or two, and then I'll get rid of them. But it's good to have. It's good to keep the records. I feel it is, anyway. Because what happens is Social Security can check up on you every 2 to 3 years. So this way you can always go back and you can look, because they always ask you that question. Have you been to the doctor since October 2 years ago? Now you can go back and you can look since that date. And you can see how many times you've been to the doctor. And you can see if the doctor told you anything that was different. You have all those records right there in front of you. And I just find it easier. This way I'm answering truthfully on my Social Security disability form when they do send that checkup. And you have it there. You're not guessing and you're not worrying about it. You have it right there in front of you in black and white, which is another pro about having this journal. You're keeping records. And again, it's like treating your disability, like treating your life as a business. Your life is more important than a business. And this is a good way to do it. This is a good way to keep track of it. Now, other extra sheets that I keep in there with my journal on a monthly basis, or as things change, is my medication list. Now, my medication list reads like a book, but as things get added or deleted from my medication list, I change the list because you know yourself, every time you go to the doctor, they say, well, let's go over your medications. Has anything changed? And if you have the list right there, you can just read it right off, or you can give them that copy and let them make a copy of it and add it right to your file. It makes things so much easier, so much more accurate. The same thing with any kind of operations or procedures that you might have had in between doctor's appointments. Keep an updated list of that also. So these are all things that you can be very proactive with your health and make your doctor's appointments a lot more streamlined. One more thing, my doctors every so often write down some instructions on a sheet of paper, like go see this other doctor, or the names of specialists, or a test that they think I should go take, or what have you. Anything that they write down on a sheet of paper and give me, I take that sheet of paper and I attach it to that day's journal entry. I attach it right to it I staple it to that page. And it's good to have. This way you always have a record of everything that's gone on with your health, with your doctor. So there you have it. That's it it in a nutshell. It's very basic. It's just keeping a record of your health, a daily record of your health. And it helps you to communicate more effectively with your doctor. So it's got to be a good thing. It's got to be able to help. Can't hurt you, right? So there you have it. Anyhow, I'd like to thank you for stopping by today. And I want to remind you, things can always be worse. That's right. Things can always be worse. Right now, somebody somewhere is wishing that they were in your position. So things can always be worse. Now, I want to remind you also, join us on Friday because we're going to be talking about addiction, amongst other things. But it's going to be a really good one on Friday. So you're not going to want to miss it. Thanks a lot for stopping by today. I really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you on Friday. You've been listening to An Apple a Day. My name is Jimmy Apple. And remember, my friend, look for the funny side of everything. The best medicine that we can come across is laughter.
Thanks for listening to An Apple a Day with Jimmy Apple, your gateway to a happy, healthy life. Join our community at www.famousapple.com. See you next time.